September 13th, 2005, a disaster struck the world of Warcraft. A plague of epic gamer proportions spread across the lands of Azeroth, killing everything in its path. Cities abandoned, entire servers brought to a halt, and even Blizzard didn't know what to do. An event that has come to be known as the Corrupted Blood Incident changed the way we looked at video games, and it also changed the world of Warcraft. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Anyways, this is the story. Wow, what a great acronym. The biggest MMORPG craze since God said, yup, humanity sounds like a good idea. Everybody and their dog had an account. Your friend, your teacher, your grandma was a level 55 Dwarf Warrior tank spec. The 2000s were the decade of World of Warcraft. And patch 1.7, Rise of the Blood God, was gonna be the shit. New quests, new fixes, and a brand new, never before seen, first time ever 20-person raid. Zul Garub, a descent into the forests of the Stranglethorn Vale to do battle against the evil blood god Hakar, the Soul Flayer. It was pretty cool. And a tough fight. A max level raid, so you had to be pretty pimped out to do it. And the boss, Hakar, was throwing some heat if you got too close to him, dude. Most notably, a powerful debuff called Corrupted Blood. Big punch to the balls if you got hit with it, to be honest. The initial damage was pretty good, and then 200 to 300 damage drain on top of that every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Not to mention the fact that it was contagious. So anybody around you would contract it, and if you got cured, you could just be reinfected by someone who still had it. So it was a big boy spell. And thank the Lord that it couldn't leave Zul Garub. I mean, if a debuff like that spread its way across the entire server, that wouldn't be too great. Okay, so a little bit of an oversight on Blizzard's part here. We all make mistakes, not pointing any fingers, but they failed to think through all the ramifications of the fact that pets could contract this debuff as well. You see, if a player was to get it when they left the Zul Garub raid area, the debuff would leave. But if a pet got it and they were immediately dismissed, they would retain it, and the timer would be frozen until they were resummoned again. So, on one particularly fateful day, the sun gleaming off the snowy peaks of Dunmorrow, a victorious hero, a hunter, having defeated the blood god himself, stepped into the city of Ironforge to sell his wares and rest his weary head. And he summoned his pet. Oh boy, shit kinda hit the fan. The debuff started spreading across the entire city like a virus, instantly murking low-level characters, and, getting the higher level guys eventually. But before anybody knew what had happened, the entire city was covered in a sea of corpses. You would die, return to collect your body, and then just die all over again. And that was just the beginning of it. NPCs could get it too, apparently, and they couldn't die, so they acted as carriers, continually reinfecting and spreading the plague as it eventually made its way across the entire world. And after the raid, players went to any number of major cities, so those all became uninhabitable. NPCs couldn't be talked to. Small communities of players just trying to survive and grind built little quarantine communities out in the wilderness to try to avoid the entire thing. It was like a real-life pandemic, and Blizzard, they didn't know what was going on. Kind of a oh shit moment, really. A completely unexpected feature of one boss's debuff had the ability to just nuke entire servers. It took him a couple days to figure it out, and by then, the game was ostensibly broken. People were just playing Keep Alive rather than actually questing or doing anything important. And it didn't help that you had some S-tier God mode ditbags who would willingly contract the virus and then run into quarantine camps in the wilderness to try and just continually keep infecting people. Grade A cool guy moves, if you ever heard of any.
Old man gave me that when I was in grade 7. Seen a lot of action. 9mm. Safety always off.
In its totality, this was just a disaster in every sense of the word, really. And it lasted for a while. Blizzard eventually, after a month of trying a whole host of different kinds of fixes, ended up just having a hard reset the servers, more or less, and the plague was ended. But it left a pretty indelible mark on the player base before the world of Azeroth was normal once more. 5 billion angry customer service emails later, and it all seemed alright again. But not before the real world took a little notice. One of the more interesting parts of this tale, and a cool little bookend to the whole story, the CDC and a number of epidemiologists took interest in the event, and they took to studying it. They wrote a bunch of scientific papers on it, actually. They used it as a case study to model the way people react to real-world epidemics and biological terrorist attacks. I mean, without any prompting, players set up little hospitals where healers would work in shifts to heal other players. They set up little quarantine zones in the wilderness. They had little watches set up around the major cities to warn new players not to enter into them. And they did all of this without anybody telling them to do it. You know, Blizzard released a statement later on saying, hey, maybe do some of this stuff. But they were already doing it, which is really cool when you think about it. Very interesting. And at the end of the day, the corrupted blood incident, whether good or bad, stands out as one of the most unique events in gaming history. Something that had never happened before, and something that could probably never have happened in any other kind of game. Entire servers, comprising of millions of people in totality, panicked and quarantined and banded together to help each other face a deadly and entirely unplanned plague that swept through the lands. When you think about it, the scope of the entire thing, just truly amazing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the plague that broke the world of Warcraft. At least for a little while anyways. And that's the video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, love ya. Bye-bye.